welcome back to today's episode of the MindSpa Podcast. Me and Michelle here today talking about our Am I the A-hole post, my favorite episodes. So we're going to start out with the first one. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband he is too dysregulated to talk during a fight? I, 35-year-old female, have been in therapy for a few years and it's honestly helped me a lot. I used to get really reactive and now I try to stay calm and communicate better. My husband, 37-year-old male, says it's made me insufferable. Last week, we were arguing about finances and he started raising his voice. I said, I'm not going to engage when things are escalated. We can talk when we're both regulated. He got really upset and said I talk like a robot and that I treat him like a client. He also said I use therapy language to avoid real conversations. I don't think that's fair. I'm literally trying not to yell. Now he keeps saying I've changed too much and he misses the old me. So am I the a-hole? What are your thoughts?
I wouldn't say she's the a-hole.
Okay.
But I do think it's important for us to recognize when we have done our own work. That doesn't necessarily mean that everyone else has done their own work.
Good point.
And I think that's what's going on here, right? Like just because you have been in therapy for a long period of time, you have learned the importance of communication and regulating your emotions, and you're at a different place and space when it comes to how you communicate. Doesn't mean that he's there yet.
Yeah.
And so how do I, in my communication skills, meet him where he's at?
Yeah.
I think that's making it more effective versus assuming that just because I've done the work, you're supposed to come along with me and, you know, we speak at the same level, we speak about the same things with the same level of regulation. That's not always the case.
Yeah.
And that can be frustrating for everybody, for him and for you. So I think it's, are you the a-hole? I wouldn't say per se.
However,
flavors, just in terms of like going at this in a fair way.
Yeah.
You know, that's my thought.
I tend to agree with you. What came forward for me is we teach people how to regulate themselves and how to communicate for themselves, but not how to actually instruct other people how to act. So there was this sort of element. I think if she had actually said, I'm going to step away from this conversation because I'm feeling dysregulated. I don't see this conversation going in the right direction. Can we take some time apart, calm down a little bit and come back to this? I think that probably would have been received better than you are too dysregulated for this conversation. You need to calm down.
Yeah.
You're the problem in this. I think that probably was the biggest, if I'm on the receiving end of that, what would be the part that bothers me the most? I think that's number one. I think there is a number of people that sometimes come to therapy thinking that's what they're going to be able to accomplish is how can I come to therapy and change other people? And they can take what we're saying to them and then instruct other people that that's how they need to change or what they need to do. And I don't think that's ever going to go well.
And that's not the goal either, right?
No,
I think they don't realize that though. Like, oh, I'm here for somebody else, or I'm here to, you know, be the instructor. But that's not the goal. I think it's really real, and that I think with the finger pointing and the you statements, that also speaks to more work that possibly has to be done in therapy in terms of how do I even communicate the needs versus the I statements that you were talking about. So I think recognizing I'm not here to instruct them. We're always going to interact with people who don't have the skills to regulate their emotions. And sometimes that's what makes the conflict what it is that I might have done the work and I know how to regulate my emotions. But it might be the other person who hasn't done the work yet. And to accept that is going to be a very important part when you do have people in your circle that you interact with on a regular basis, right? Just because you've done it doesn't mean that they have as well too.
Which can make it harder. I actually post that said, like, I'm basically undateable now because I've done so much of my own work. I can't handle
Oh my gosh.
Anybody else. And I was like, kind of fun. I thought it was funny.
But that's true. And that's the thing, like, I think DBT talks a lot about it, right? Sometimes what are the barriers that get in the way of emotion regulation? Sometimes it's not you, but it's the other person who hasn't done their own work and they don't know how to regulate their emotions. And so it makes it difficult because you're trying, but you're like going through mud at this point. It gets frustrating. So I think it's coming to realize that just because I've done it doesn't mean that they've done their work either.
Yeah.
But how do I meet them where they're at?
Yeah.
So that we can still have an effective conversation.
What came to mind for me is defensiveness. One of the quickest, I guess, derailers of a conversation is if either party gets defensive.
Yeah.
And part of the art of having a difficult conversation is learning how not to hit people's defense mechanisms. Because the second you hit it, that conversation's going nowhere good. And so that is why we talk about I statements versus you statements, because a quick way to hit a defense mechanism is you always, you never, you need to, all that kind of stuff. I think it definitely a good message of like, it's true. We're not going to also, we need to have this conversation in the window of affect tolerance. We need to be calm. We need to be regulated to have a good conversation. But also, how do we do that effectively? And it's not hitting defense mechanisms.
No. And I always look at like the boxing as an analogy.
Yeah.
Like if I'm boxing and I'm punching you, you're going to defend yourself, but then you're going to punch me back. You're not just going to defend yourself. You're going to attack back.
Yeah.
And we do that. Whenever we feel like we're being attacked, we punch back.
I like that analogy. I haven't used that one before.
We punch back with our words. We punch back and hit them where it hurts. And we just, you know, the idea of like I heard people hurting people.
Escalate out of control.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. And so it makes sense when if he's responding that way, he probably feels attacked.
Yeah.
And so he's defending himself, but also now attacking you. And again, like you said, it doesn't go anywhere good.
No.
It only escalates.
No. So not the a-hole, but some work to do.
Yeah, I would say that.
Maybe some couples therapy.
Some communication skills building. Something's got to be done for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you read our next one?
Yes.
For us?
So am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to the wedding, even if it means she won't come? I, 32-year-old female, am getting married this summer, and we decided on a no kids wedding. My sister, 34-year-old female, has 3 kids under the age of 8 and says she can't come unless they're invited. I offered to help pay for childcare or find someone she trusts, but she says she is not comfortable leaving them. Now, she's saying that I'm excluding her and her family. My parents are also pressuring me to make an exception because she is your sister. I feel like if I do that, it's unfair to everyone else who respected the rules. But at the same time, I don't want my sister to miss my wedding. Am I the a-hole?
You know what I find so interesting about these posts, especially wedding posts, is how frequently people are like, I can't make this exception for my family member because then everybody else will be upset. I'm like, I actually don't think that that's true. I think most guests would expect rules to be different for family members than for the rest of the guests.
Definitely.
Considering we're always talking numbers, and if it's something that affects the numbers, then even if I have 4 siblings, the impact on the overall number of people that will be at the wedding would be minimal compared to saying everybody can bring their kids or everybody can bring a +1 and that type of stuff. So number one, I just find that weird that that's their, it seems like a weak argument for not bending on your sibling, like making a, so that was the first thing that came to my mind about that.
Like it's your sister.
It's your sister.
There's exceptions.
They're your nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
They're family.
Yes.
That is very different.
Hugely different.
Than having everybody bring
it's not the same
any
thing.
Kid, any age kind of thing.
It's not the same thing.
So I'm struggling on this.
Yeah, me too. I think she gives me like a-hole vibes. You have to give your sister that exception to the rule, right? And I think...
I would think so.
Yeah, I think it's... I get the idea of not having kids at the wedding, but the kids are also your family members too. And so you would want them to celebrate in this union with you. Look at this beyond this moment, beyond this wedding day. When you and your spouse, the rest of your life, when you and your spouse are even celebrating your 10th year anniversary or your 20th anniversary or 25th anniversary, chances are you're going to have your sister there over any of the other guests that were there. And so when you think of the longevity of the relationship and what it means to even just have that support in place, I would see there being some flexibility to the rules. I get though that kids are disruptive and that they might, disrupt the environment, but I think it's mitigating that. Bring some coloring books, an iPad, like
bring someone to watch the kids at the wedding where the parent can feel comfortable. I always wonder too, if like how frequently this kind of thing happens and then the person in question has their own kids and then they're faced with a similar dilemma on the other side. Because I also think that sometimes, you know how there's some people that before they have kids, they're like, my dog is like my baby. And you're like, I get that. But also only because you don't have an actual baby can you say that.
So for now, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But also, so I do wonder for the people that are making those decisions, particularly when it comes to kids, how would you feel if that was you?
Yeah.
Including the extra cost that can involve, like people who travel and then they need to get a larger hotel, but because they can't leave their kids behind. But now I'm in a different city, or I'm,
exactly.
Some stranger is going to watch my kids.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I think that's a good point. Like even just thinking of my own wedding, I had a no kids rule at the wedding, but exceptions for family. But even if it was a friend who had an infant or a newborn, I would have still made exceptions for them.
Yeah.
Because they're sleeping most of the time.
Yeah.
Right? They're not disruptive in the same way. Whereas sometimes I feel like it could be reversed where they're like no children at all, regardless of the age. I think it depends on the age. There has to be some exceptions to it.
And I would have the conversation that could sound like during the ceremony in particular, if your child becomes disruptive,
remove yourself and the child.
Right. Like that to me, I did that a million times.
Exactly.
Bringing my kids places. You just don't let them be disruptive.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's tough when you're just so tunnel vision and focused on like your wedding and the details and the perfection of everything. That becomes sort of like, you don't want anything to disrupt that, without thinking of what does this look like long term or even years from now. I think it's important to have some flexibility and recognize like having your nieces and nephew there under the age of 8, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the parents, the situation that puts the parents in as well of like, who do you support? You might be able to understand both children's point of view, but then you're creating this dynamic in the family too of side taking. And I don't know. I just can't see it being worth it, to be honest.
No, me neither.
And if it was a cost issue, I think I'd be like, Mom, Dad.
Exactly. Pay it. I'm sure the sister would mind paying it either.
Right.
Like I think there's some flexibility there that's not being explored.
Yeah.
It's not like as black and white of like, no, they can't come or they can come. It's like, we can have them there, but we can also have a plan in place while they're there.
Definitely sounds like some inflexibility on both sides. So in fairness, but I do find like, again, sometimes when you dig in, it encourages the other person to dig in. It can be, if you ever feel like you're hitting up against a wall against someone, it's always good to ask yourself, have I been flexible? Or am I actually the wall? I'm bumping up against my own wall that I'm creating.
And I guess when you think of like what creates that flexibility, I think it's experience when you understand it more, right? Even the sister, right? If you understand what it's like being a bride who is stressed out and who's overwhelmed, or the sister who understands what it's like to be a mother of 3 littles and what it feels like to have to navigate childcare and wanting to be there for your sister. I think when you understand or you're able to empathize with the other person, or at least put yourself in their position, it allows you to be more flexibility versus being as rigid, only looking at it from your perspective.
Agreed.
You're not getting very far with that.
I wonder a little bit, there is a lot of culture around like, it's the bride's day, and I think that can create some people believing everybody is being the a-hole unless they're doing exactly what I want wants. Because it's my day.
So the bride even setting the tone of like, you being flexible in how you're seeing it. And we all want to celebrate with you, but there has to be some sort of flexibility in that.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. Next one. Am I the a-hole for cutting off my mom, but still secretly seeing my dad behind her back? I, 29-year-old female, went no contact with my mom about a year ago because of a long history of manipulation and guilt tripping. My dad still lives with her, and I've been seeing him separately. Am I the a-hole for cutting off my mom, but still secretly seeing my dad behind her back? I, 29-year-old female, went no contact with my mom about a year ago because of a long history of manipulation and guilt tripping. My dad still lives with her, and I've been seeing him separately. Coffee, quick visits, etc. My mom recently found out and is furious. She says I'm being disrespectful and dividing the family. She also said if I cut her off, I should cut him off too. I don't think that's fair. My relationship with my dad is separate from my relationship with her. Now she's telling extended family that I'm trying to turn him against her. Am I the a-hole? This is an interesting one. I want to say going no contact is so rare. I want to say it's actually not something we see a lot of. I'd say there's more times that I see where I'm like, that could be a good idea, before I ever see it where it's happening and I'm like, oh, that's not warranted.
So you see more of like boundary setting versus like extreme no contact?
Yeah, or a need for those things, but very few people are ever willing to go like no contact. Even when you look at the situation, you go, this would probably be warranted. Very few people do it. So we don't actually, I wouldn't say that we see this a lot, but what are your thoughts? What are your initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think that she is the a-hole in the situation. I think she's really just protecting herself based on what she has said about her mom.
Yeah.
And I think that she also values still having a parental figure in her life. And so she's nurturing and cultivating that relationship with her dad, which I think is extremely important.
Yeah.
I would assume that the time that she spends with her dad is focused on them and their relationship versus, like her mom says, trying to pull him away from her.
Right.
And so I think if that's the main focus of just strengthening the relationship she has with her dad and her extended family, that's an important piece in all of this. I wouldn't say that she's the a-hole in that.
Yeah. I just found it interesting that there's that expectation from mom that like, because you're not talking to me, you should not be talking to him. I think that I'm trying to think of any scenario where that would actually be valid to say, well, because you're not. Actually, I would say the one that I would see valid is if you're not going to talk to me, you don't get access to my children.
Yes. Yeah.
That's probably the
like a separation or divorce situation.
Yeah. Where it's like, you can't try to have a relationship with my kids if you're not going to repair whatever damage there is with our relationship. But outside of that, it's sort of like you can cut off one relationship, not another. Sure. I don't think that you have to do that. I think that even just the accusation of you're turning him against me. Yeah. One of the things that you can notice with manipulative people is they often get mad at other people who tell the truth about them.
Yeah.
And my thought is always, if you're behaving in such a way that when people speak the truth about you, you're upset, you should probably check your behavior. You might be the a-hole.
That tells us something.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing with mom, right? Like I think the daughter is really trying to have a relationship with her dad, which is separate from her relationship with her mom.
Absolutely
but yet that's triggering her based on what she might assume they're talking about or what's coming up in those relationships. But I think that it's important for her to do that. There's no reason for her to cut or to go no contact with her dad.
Yeah.
There probably a lot of thought went into her decision to do that with her mom. Like you said, people don't wake up and just do that.
No.
And so for her to have made that decision, I can only assume that a lot of thought and consideration has gone into it. And for her to be able to still maintain her relationship with her dad, there's probably something she's getting out of it.
Yeah.
Right? It must be a healthy relationship or a secure relationship where she feels like she wants to maintain.
Yeah.
But I think it's an important decision that she made. I don't think that she's the a-hole for that decision.
There is a piece of it we haven't talked about, though. They did it behind mom's back.
Oh, right.
We can't know, but I'd be very curious what would have been different if they hadn't actually done it behind her back. All the context of the story so far makes me imagine there's a reason that if mom is manipulative, if mom is has some toxic traits, I can imagine it felt like I won't be able to keep a relationship with my dad if mom knows. And therefore my only way to keep a relationship with dad is by not telling her. So I don't want to jump right to it's inappropriate not to tell mom because I think there could be a valid reason for not telling her.
I think they know her enough to know that this is probably the best way for us to go about this.
Yeah.
I think that they probably talked about it. Should we not? And they probably came to the decision that it's probably best for us not to tell her.
Yeah.
Especially because it probably puts dad in a tough position.
Yeah.
Because clearly he values the relationship of both mom and his daughter.
Yeah.
And he wants to be able to maintain that relationship with both mom and his daughter. And so it might be for his best interest. I mean, I think the daughter has nothing to lose because she's already gone no contact anyways.
Yeah.
So it's likely for his best interest that we just don't tell her, I want to still be able to see you and I want to still be able to connect with you, but I also don't want to ruffle any feathers at home.
Yeah.
And so let's figure this out. Perhaps at some time or point they might share with her, but I think they probably know her enough to know that this is the best way to go about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as soon as she found out, but this is the thing, right? She did find out, right?
Okay.
So, but I think that can explain why she's upset. She does have some ground to stand on to be like, well, you guys lied. Obviously, lying happened in order for this to happen. But then she says also, but if you cut off relationship with me, you must cut it off with him. So that they knew that that's how she was going to react.
She would not have been okay with it.
But even the idea, I think that if we zoom that out, is it ever appropriate to tell other people, what relationships they're allowed to have.
That's not, you don't decide that.
No.
You don't decide what relationships she's allowed to maintain just because it's not one that she's maintained with you. I think she can decide that for herself.
Yeah.
Which is what she's doing, even for her husband, right? It's important for him to decide what relationships he wants to maintain.
Yeah.
Especially if it's not causing any disruption to her.
Yeah.
I think it's between the two of them, the father and the daughter.
But can you imagine being like, well, if you're not talking to me, you're not allowed to talk to the rest of your family or your father? Like, I can't imagine wanting to isolate my child that way.
Yeah. I mean, there has to be more going on for mom to set that kind of boundary. I mean, that doesn't happen. Like, in what world, right? Yeah. It's like, that's not a fair ask. Yeah. It's not a fair ask.
Hurt people. We would definitely, if we were seeing this in a session, we'd be like, what happened to mom? And 9 times out of 10, when we ask that question, they're like, oh, my grandma.
Exactly.
And you're like,
there's always more to it.
Yeah.
There's always more to it. Nobody, you don't just wake up with that sort of like request or ask, you know, because you know the value that people place on relationships. Yeah. Parent relationships or even extended, like, you know that that's an important piece in all of this. To make that decision will be coming from a place of hurt, but it's not a fair one to make. I can see why the daughter would be going behind mom's back or why dad would be going behind mom's back to make that relationship work.
I hope they get to keep their relationship. That'd be very sad if she doesn't get to keep a relationship with her dad.
They've done it before secretly.
You wouldn't be the a-hole to go back to that.
Figure out a way. Am I the a-hole for complaining to my boss that my coworkers' mental health days are screwing the rest of us over? I, 31-year-old female, work in a small office where we're already stretched thin. One of my coworkers has been taking mental health days, like at least once a week lately. When she's off, the rest of us have to cover her workload. So I genuinely believe mental health matters, but it's getting frustrating because there's backup and there's no one else who gets that kind of flexibility other than her. So I brought this up to my manager and they said that I basically said that feels unfair. Now my coworker found out and is upset, saying I'm invalidating her struggles. I do feel bad, but we're all burning out. Am I the a-hole?
What's really funny is the statement of like, you're invalidating me reminded me of the first post of like using therapy talk to kind of get your way. This is a hard one because you can see both sides, right? You can understand that if this policy is in place, we know all the different reasons why someone might need to reduce their work to 4 days a week and not 5 days a week to protect their own mental health. But it sounds like the workplace isn't necessarily doing the right thing to actually protect the rest of the staff from finding themselves maybe even in the same position as this other coworker. Yeah. I think it's the workplace that's the a-hole here.
I like that. That's a good point. Because if they're not putting measures in place to ensure that this coworker can be off on mental health days and not have it impact the other colleagues, then we're going to find ourselves in the same situation again with the other colleagues as well too, right? But how do we, I think that's a good point. That is a challenge because it's not really the colleague who's taking the time off of work that's the a-hole. I mean, they're basing it on where they're at. If they're having a hard time, if they need to be off of work, they're going to do what they need to do, which we commend them for. We encourage that. Yeah. But at what cost, right? Is it impacting the other coworkers? That's when obviously they could become resentful. It could feel like it's unfair because they're having to take on or pick up the remaining work of the other colleague.
Because why is it in place for that person? They said very specifically it's not in place for them. And there's no avenue to get extra support in there to help with the workload. They're just expected to take on the other person's workload. Yeah. That is a recipe for creating resentment, us, the people. Yeah. And neither one of them are the decision makers about it. You know what I mean? So
they're not responsible to figure it out. Yeah.
No. But I think that, and this is where it can be really challenging for the worker who made the complaint. It's a lot easier to make a complaint kind of positioning the coworker as the problem versus the workplace. If they'd come to say, the thing I'm frustrated with is actually how you're not properly supporting us while you're properly supporting her. And that's the thing that I want to complain about. And I think the other person who's taking the time off wouldn't have actually been upset with that conversation. They'd be like, that's true. I feel bad that they have to take on my workload. I don't want them to like resent me because of that. So yes, workplace, please do what you can so that they actually don't resent me for this.
Exactly.
But I would think that most people would struggle to have that conversation with the workplace. They find it easier
to point fingers at the coworker who's away and who's taking care of themselves, and to actually look at what is the system that's in place, and how does the system not really encourage us to be able to do what we need to do whenever we're feeling burnt out.
I think this is one of the scenarios that always upsets me the most is when everybody's attention is focused at the wrong, their anger and is focused at the wrong target. And then that actually creates a dynamic that there's no solution because you can't solve it if you're targeting the wrong source of the problem. Then you see people quit their jobs. You see people burn out. You see workplaces losing good people and not ever realizing, it's me.
I'm the problem.
If I had switched that, this would actually be different.
Yeah.
But they have no vested interest, unfortunately, either, of being like, wait, guys, don't worry. I think it's me. We're going to change it on our end.
The employer?
The employer.
Yeah. I'm the problem. I'll fix this.
Yeah. That's
I agree with that. But that's exactly it. It's sometimes we spend so much time not looking at what the actual root cause is, what the actual problem is. And that breeds frustration, which is what the poster is saying. Like, I'm feeling frustrated and this is unfair. And it's like, okay, well, maybe we need to have a conversation around like, what exactly is the problem? And how do we go to find those solutions versus it being the colleague or the coworker? Right.
So if the poster is listening, go back to your workplace and tell them they're the problem.
Exactly.
Go to your coworker, be like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to position you as the problem. I actually just think we just need more support. If you're not going to be here, that's okay.
It's not on the employees to figure that piece out.
No.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the MindSpa Podcast, Am I the A-Hole Edition?